All right, welcome back. We're back here with Future Pro Goaltending Channel, and today we're going to do a ton of stuff. We're going to show you 5 great exercises from my personal trainer, Brent McKenzie, at Performance Fitness, and they're going to help you with your butterfly, your knee drive, your power, awesome stuff. We're going to get into a lot more stuff now dealing with off-ice training, and this is going to happen throughout the next couple videos and going forward, so I think you'll love it. My background is university in strength and fitness conditioning, kinesiology, so it's right up my alley, and we're going to get into that to help you as a goaltender, whether you're a young kid or an adult, beer league or whatever. The off-ice is crucial. We're going to get into that more in our ongoing series here. We're also going to do a Q&A because people send me lots of questions, and I wanted to go over some of those. And we're also going to look at a very specific RVH scenario and tell you how you can play it, give you a choice, show you the pros and cons. But let's get started. All right, Brent, what are some good things that we can do as goaltenders in the gym if we have access to this stuff? And also, what should we do if we don't have access? So let's look at maybe the first drill you'd recommend for goalies to help improve their butterfly.
I think ultimately before we start any exercises, the first thing we want to look at is making sure we've got qualified instruction. So before you start any of these exercises that we're about to attempt today, just make sure that you've got a qualified individual taking a look at you, or that you've got some safety around you to ensure that you're doing things correctly that way. First one I'm going to recommend would be a barbell front squat. So there are a lot of pre-phases to the barbell front squat. Might not be one that you want to jump into straight away, but it's a great exercise that you can start with minimal equipment at home, lightweight. You don't even need weight. You can actually practice with body positioning as well to ensure you're building yourself up so that you are able to move into something that involves weight or bars as well. So first one we're going to try out, barbell front squat. You're going to start off with your standard barbell, 45 pounds on your standard barbell. Feet are going to be about hip width apart ultimately when you get into your standard position. And there's different rack positions that you can take when you're coming out of a front squat. For me personally, I like to go the hand over, which allows the bar to kind of rest across the top of the delts and up by the clavicle, kind of going right underneath the Adam's apple there. Your elbows are going to go directly underneath the bar, so you want to keep your elbow tips in here nice and high under that bar. So a big part of the reason for that is if you're actually dropping those elbows as you move through this movement, 2 things are going to happen. 1, you're going to lose the bar. 2, you're going to start to lose postural control. So ultimately, you want to keep that bar up, your feet about hip width apart. You want to brace your core before doing any lift to ensure that you're staying stable and strong through your upper back and spine. And then you're unracking, slowly moving back. So your feet are going to be about hip width apart. You're going to brace the core, keeping your elbows nice and high. You want to stay nice and strong again through that midsection. And we're going to start with something called hip hinge. Now hip hinge is a simple movement where you're dropping from the start position into a position where your butt slowly starts to move backwards. Okay, so again, you're nice and tall. Brace that core nice and strong. Start into your hip hinge. Slowly lower your body. Weight distribution coming down through the midfoot, heel, and big toe. You're going to pause out. I want you to pause out, really maximize your mobility, and slow, controlled back up to the top. So again, brace, hinge, weight distribution through heel, midfoot, and toe. Hold under control, slowly back up, and step forward and re-wrap. So a big part of your strength movement through this is ensuring again that you've got that nice, solid, strong core. Your weight distribution is correct. There's different types of positioning for toes and what you're trying to accomplish there, but essentially if you start off just outside hip width apart with your toes forward or slightly out, that's your best bet.
So Brent, let's move on to exercise number 2 that's going to be beneficial for goalie training, improving their butterfly.
Sure. I think that a big part of the goalie training is in emphasizing and ensuring we have emphasis on the posterior chain. So I've selected the single leg RDL. Now, as aside from the single leg RDL, again, there are progressions up to this exercise. If you've never done a standard deadlift before, that might be something you want to learn before progressing to a single leg variation. But for goalies, having that one leg isolation, that ability to be strong, mobile, and move freely on both sides is extremely important. So the single leg RDL is a great exercise for that. So we're going to start off with one dumbbell. We're going to go unilateral. So what we're going to have you do is standing in this position, in this particular demo, we're going to stand on our left foot with the dumbbell in the right hand. Okay, so starting with a good strong posture position, shoulder blades together, chest nice and tall. And again, you want to just brace the core, make sure you're nice and tight through the belly button. And you're always thinking of support and postures with this movement. So as we descend through the movement, we start to move into the movement, we really want to make sure that we're not losing that postural position, and we want to make sure we're maintaining that through the movement. So just nice and slow, chest nice and tall. Again, we're bracing, we're nice and tall in the posture. Controlled, slow going down. Extend the back leg. Now in this back leg position, we want to try to keep that back leg nice and high, and you want to ensure the back toes, you can see the movement through my toes, we're trying to do what's called a plantar flex, or sorry, a dorsiflex, my bad. A dorsiflex, where your back heel is nice and high, you're truly trying to activate that right glute, okay? You're holding nice and strong, slow control coming back up, and activating these glutes at the top, so you're ensuring you're getting that nice squeeze through the middle there as well. Okay, so again, dorsiflexing the toe, nice and controlled, slowly lower back down, extend the back leg, your hips are nice and square, hold the position, slowly back up, again, and nice and tall.
All right, Brent, what do we got for the third exercise to help goaltenders improve their butterfly?
So the next exercise we're going to do, Steve, is called a lateral stride or a lateral glider stride. This is something that's kind of unique because you can actually do this one at home. If you got some hardwood floors and a nice sock, you're all set. That's all you need. So here we have the boards. We can get a little bit more fancy with the movement. What we're really trying to emphasize here is actually bringing in some of that stability element. When we're looking at strength and conditioning for goalies, we want to ensure that we've got the strength, the power. Of course, we've got the maneuverability and the movement skills, but we want to make sure we've got some forms of range of motion and flexibility in here as well. So this exercise is a nice one for that, really emphasizing groin, hips, glutes, low back, postural control. So feet are going to go about hip width apart. To start off, again, a lot of the exercises carry over the postural control, meaning nice and strong to the core, shoulder blades set together. What you want to start off by doing is distributing the weight through the midfoot and heel of the planted leg, so the leg that's outside of the board or outside of the movement. And this particular leg is going to come out into a stride. So we're going to slowly sink into this leg, extending that leg out, get to a point where you're comfortable, you feel a bit of a stretch through the groin and the hip. And in this position, you're really trying to ensure you've got full extension, shoulder blades and posture look nice, and everything is square. Okay? Really try to stay square to the shooter or square to the individual or the wall or the target. From that position, hold, slow control back up, and again, reset in that position. So you can see as I'm dropping into this squat or into this single leg squat, a lot of that weight is going back through the hinge, very similar to our first exercise being the barbell front squat. So we're actually hinging the hips back as we extend that leg out. We're holding in our lowest depth, our lowest comfortable position, and then slowly controlled back up. Okay.
All right, Brent, we're going to do exercise number 4 for goaltenders to improve their butterfly. And a lot of these devices you can get online. We'll put a link in the description. They're not expensive, and they're super valuable for your goaltending butterfly. So what do we got here, Brent?
So this one's called the banded clamshell. Again, there's a lot of variations you can use, but the nice thing about this one is all you need is a band from home. You can buy those online like Steve alluded to. So this one in particular, there's a few advanced variations you can move through. We're going to start with a couple, and that's a good place for you to begin. So you're going to get down on your side. We're going to do kind of a side lying variation to start. This would be kind of the easiest variation. And essentially what we're really trying to do in this exercise is really minimize the movement of the hip while trying to kind of get opening of the groin. Okay, so again, I want to have these knees kind of bent up at about a 90-degree angle or close to that. This hand can go overhead, shoulder blades back, core nice and strong. We want to avoid rolling the hips. So we're really trying to maximize opening of that groin, okay, in this area here, and then slow and controlled. We don't want to get into movement where we're actually turning or rotating the body. So keep everything square, open, hold, contract this outer glute. You're going to feel that through the outsides of the legs, through abduction, and slowly back down. Okay, back up, hold on about a 3 count, slowly back down. So that is kind of a standard lying variation. If we really want to try to bring in a bit more core into this variation, we can kind of push ourselves up into a side plank hold where we're actually now off the ground, okay? So everything is still aligned. Now we're bringing in a bit more outer oblique. focusing a bit more on, again, the addition of that oblique, that core strong, that postural positioning. And we're still trying to open everything through the hip, keeping core nice and strong, and slowly back down. Now, when using bands, they do tend to slide, so there's the occasion where you do have to move them or adjust them. Okay, and again, everything tall, open as wide as you can, slowly back down. Okay, up, open, again, hips are staying square to the target, slowly back down.
So Brent, exercise number 5. What's the 5th exercise to help goaltenders improve their butterfly?
So a great exercise for developing posterior chain and glutes is the hip thrust. So the hip thrusts have, again, a few different variations. This particular variation I'm choosing is coming from a bench, and we're going actually with no weight or no barbell. But there are variations where you can actually place a bar across your hips with some support. So what you're going to do in this position is you're going to move down onto a bench. You're going to have your shoulder blades supported. You want to drive your hips up high to get glute activation. Really focus on, again, keeping everything nice and square and stable. Feet are going to go forward with your heels go hip width apart and toes pointing forward. Chin tucked into the chest, core nice and strong. So standard variation of this one will be if you were holding a bar here, and basically you're just going to drop your hips under control, the chin stays tucked, and then basically you drive up, moving that weight, activating the glutes. So again, if you're not going with weight in this particular exercise, you don't have a bar or you don't have something here, you can just kind of go hands across the chest. Move down through the movement, fire up the hips, and really activate those glutes. Get them nice and tight. So once you kind of progress through this movement, you've really kind of keyed in on that glute activation. You can then start moving into some single leg variations where you have one leg out and you're doing the same thing, but you're driving it with one leg. So the big variation difference here is you've actually got that isolation and that focus on one individual leg. So if you're a goalie that tends to notice weakness through one particular area or one particular side, the single leg variation might be a nice progression for you.
So Brent, thanks today for showing us all your stuff to help goaltenders improve their butterfly. We'll be seeing you again. Thanks for contributing today, Brent, and look forward to seeing you in the gym. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Josh, we want to talk today a little bit about a situation with misuse of the RVH. And it's a common situation. We've got a puck back in the corner area. Guy's not imminently attacking the net. You got a guy open in the high slot. So let's just take a look, starting down in the RVH, which we see a lot of times, which I don't really agree on when a guy's over here. But what we want to demonstrate is a guy is not attacking the net. I've got a passing option out here, yet the goalie a lot of times gets in this position. So Josh, when you catch this puck, I just want you to shoot it without stopping it. All right, so guys, no threat to score himself, but the goalie's chosen to be RVH, and he's got boot break on the post. So just shoot these to score, okay? So pass is gonna come out. Fix your net. Okay, 2 more. Last one. A pretty good sequence there. So we're going to continue on with the teaching here. So Josh, show me, if this man has the puck on his stick, show me where you think optimal position is. If he's about to shoot this, where would you want to be? Right about here. Okay. Now, we want to figure out from RVH to that point, is that the best way to get there or to try to do it standing? So let's repeat the same sequence we just did, but starting up on your feet and trying to capture that optimal positioning and get your feet set before he shoots it. All right, now we got Josh in a little different sequence. He's in nice and tight. And for me, I think this is probably a better scenario for the RVH when the guy's gapped out, because this is gonna let you get the bottom taken care of early and never having it open up. So let's try a couple, same scenario. Start in the RVH, and you also have the ability to paddle poke, and because he's tight, this makes a lot more sense. Okay, 2 more. Last one. Now, I think one thing I'd say, just fix your net there for a second. So when you're making this read here, and he's going to be releasing from right here, the one thing is he was wide open there. Now, if I'm a defenseman, guy's got the puck in the corner, and I've got him tied up, you don't need to do the RVH because you can sort of trust the coverage there.
All right, here we are in the Q&A. Got my 10 questions here. Let's get into it. Steve, what is the biggest issue with goalie coaching today? I think we live in a great time if you're a young goaltender because there is a ton of info about being a goalie. Lots of great goalie coaches, lots of knowledge available. I think the biggest issue though is a lot of people blindly follow lemmings, what the goalie coach says without really understanding. There's a lack of critical thinking in my mind. I think there needs to be more discernment. So whether it's a cool looking flashy thing or a neat looking movement drill, I think the biggest issue in goalie coaching now is understanding, is what being taught going to help me, and is what being taught practical and have a good basis of support. So the biggest issue is finding the real stuff, not the fluff. Number 2, what advice would you give a goalie who likely won't be tall enough? Now, I get this all the time. I point out the average heights in the NHL and OHL, etc. And it's a real thing. It's not my belief, it's just the way it is. Now, a lot of the goalies I coach aren't going to be that size. And I think it brings back a question of, why are you playing goal? If you're playing goal just so you can play in the NHL, that's not going to be very productive and not very fruitful. So at the end of the day, play the sport because you love it. Try to get to be the best you possibly can be, and don't worry about things outside your control. You can't control how tall you're going to be. You're either going to be tall enough or you're not, but do the things you can control and take your game as far as you can. Don't be wound up with the height restrictions at the higher levels. There'll be other things that come in your way, and that's going to be one factor you have to overcome. You need to be overwhelmingly awesome. If you're going to beat out a taller kid, you're going to have to be substantially better. So at the end of the day, don't worry about it. Worry about the things you can control. Number 3, which is better, scholarship path versus major junior? Well, to a Canadian kid, there's been a lot of changes. My generation, I'm 54, there was a ton of us got full scholarships to Division I schools. Now, as a Canadian kid, getting a full scholarship is a unicorn. You'd have to be playing in the BCHL, North American League, USHL, and dominating. But just to a general Canadian kid growing up, getting a full scholarship is super rare. And I think even last year, there were probably only a total of maybe 10 kids in the entire country as a goaltender that got a full scholarship to the United States. Now, Division II, Division III, not really ideal for one reason. You've got to pay to go to school in those situations. They don't have full scholarships. And that's $30,000 a year to play in college hockey in the United States. That all being said, you need to get your schooling. So if you can play major, junior, keep your schooling up, keep your degree in your back pocket, that's the best way to approach it. But today, to a Canadian kid trying to get a scholarship, that's not a realistic outcome. Number 4, what do you think of Trafford Oilers not having a team to play on anymore? No comment. Do you really hate the RVH? I love the RVH. I started the hashtag RVH fail because I see so many goalies in the NHL junior, college, etc., getting lit up because they're misusing it. The RVH itself is a reactionary save. You use it when a guy's imminently about to attack the net and he's close. You don't use it as a static pre-set up position. So I don't hate the RVH. I love the RVH. I just hate when goalies don't understand when you shouldn't be using it. Number 6, who do you think is the best goalie coach on the planet? Not me, obviously. I'm a good goalie coach, but I've learned from a lot of people much smarter than myself. I'd say, obviously, in my mind, it's going to be Mitch Korn. He's had a bazillion Vezinas. He's put a bazillion of us in the NHL as goalies. He's put a bazillion of us in the NHL as NHL goalie coaches. So there's one answer to that question. The best goalie coach alive right now would be Mitch Korn. Number 7, why do you call yourself the GOAT? Well, number 1, it triggers people, so I love getting a reaction out of people. I don't think I'm the greatest of all time. The reality is, my wife said I smells like a goat. I smelt like a goat. The reality is I'm old and I smell like a goat, so that's why I call myself the GOAT. I don't think I'm the greatest goalie coach of all time. What is your opinion on VR training? Well, I think a goaltender has a ton of things they need to do to get to the higher levels. And in that job requirement, there's movement, transition, puck handling, physicality, physical skills, mental skills, the actual reflex and tracking a puck in. I use the word tracking, watching the puck in a reflective way, a reactive way. That very rarely happens. On a 10-puck basis in the NHL, 1 out of 10 gives you a chance to react to it. So I don't like to see kids fall in love with the bright, shiny objects of VR training and goofy stuff if it's a small part of their job. The biggest part of your job isn't reflexes. Of course, it's going to help at some level, but in reality, I don't even think there's peer-reviewed studies. So everybody says those VR goggles work or they feel good and people love them. But the reality is, number 1, there's no proof that they work from a scientific basis. And number 2, you have bigger fish to fry. There's bigger problems with your game than your reflexes. Number 9, I'm just getting started as a goalie coach. What advice would you give me? I think that's a great question. For 30 years, I've been trying to help out goalie coaches. I don't think it's about me and I don't care about competition. I think goalies themselves need better goalie coaching across the board. So I've always made myself available. There's a 344-page book you can download in the description. I can certify you with an exam to test your knowledge. But at the end of the day, if you're a new goalie coach, don't copy what your goalie coach taught you because you think he's the guy. I'm not the guy, that guy's not the guy. Study from different goalie coaches. Pull in and come up with your own curriculum based on that through trial and error, and study lots of different goalie coaches, not just one goalie coach. And number 10, I want to start a YouTube channel for coaching goalies, gear review, etc. What basic gear do I need to get started? You don't need a bazillion dollars worth of video equipment like I've got here. I do it because it's a hobby and it's fun. I've made videos since 1992 about goaltending, and that was on a VHS tape, and some of you don't even know what that is. But simply all you need is an iPhone, maybe a little Osmo gimbal, and a GoPro. So for probably $500-600, you could get yourself going making YouTube videos. So an iPhone, an Osmo gimbal, so you can keep it nice and smooth with your footage, and a GoPro. And those GoPros get some pretty good audio when you use it as a chesty, so that's pretty simple. 3 little things, and you can get your own YouTube channel started and kick my butt. Thank you.